Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2024 movie titled Classified. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, we are introduced to Evan Shaw, a CIA hitman traveling from Tokyo to New York. When Evan arrived in New York under the code name Mr. K, several of subordinates from his agency awaited him. Before carrying out his mission, he had to decipher a secret code hidden in the classified section of a local newspaper. After successfully cracking it, Evan got critical information regarding the whereabouts of a suitcase containing essential documents, a book, and a photograph of his target. With the bag in hand, Evan retired to a hotel room to painstakingly prepare for the operation. After carefully analyzing the region, he chose a vantage position atop a crane at the shipping container terminal as a strategic site for monitoring his target and carrying out the task from a distance. Despite his life of secrecy, Evan lived alone. For years, he had fantasized about having Monica at his side, a woman who had previously played a vital role in his life. However, the bitter fact that Monica had died years prior remained to torment him, leaving a wound that refused to heal. One fateful night, Evan decided it was time to take action. He returned to the shipping terminal he had been monitoring with measured calm. He moved without hesitation and quickly dispatched two guards who stood in his way. Evan set up his sniper rifle atop the crane, his sharp eyes locked on his target, somebody who had just returned to his office building. Evan quickly carried out his plan, first shooting out 3 rooftop guards before checking whether the perimeter was secure. Then, without hesitation, he infiltrated the building and dispatched his target with icy precision. After finishing the assignment, Evan returned to his hotel to clean up. He destroyed the target's documents, as well as his fake passport, before heading to Rome, Italy. When Evan arrived, an appointed contact greeted him and took him to the hotel. There, he received a newspaper with new orders from his employer. As with his previous assignment, he retrieved a prearranged briefcase with weapons and a photograph of his next victim. After inspecting the contents, he stowed some of the equipment in the hotel safe before leaving for lunch. When Evan returned, he realized something was wrong. His safe was empty. Not only that, but a woman he had seen earlier in the restaurant suddenly came, pointing a gun at him. The lady identified herself as Casey and claimed to know Evan's true identity, including his assignment methods and specific information about the business that employed him. Despite Casey's efforts to manage the situation, Evan quickly overpowered her and tied her to a chair. Casey then disclosed that she was an MI6 analyst examining the United States Tourism Division, which was purportedly a covert branch of the CIA. However, Casey disclosed that the group had long since disbanded. She also indicated that Kevin Angler, the man who had been giving Evan orders all along, had died 10 years ago. In a flashback, he recalls the moment he decided to join a covert operation as a hired assassin under the command of his boss, a CIA agent named Kevin. Despite the documents Casey gave as evidence, Evan hesitated to believe her. However, when Casey mentioned Monica Walker, the woman who frequently appeared in Evan's hallucinations, the reality began to emerge. Monica, like Casey, appears to have formerly worked as an MI6 analyst. When Evan heard her name, he realized he could not kill Casey. Determined to verify her accusations, Evan used the hotel computer to check the documents Casey gave him. Evan realized the horrifying reality that Kevin had been dead for a decade. This news reminded Evan of his last supper with Kevin, when he told him about his love for Monica and his wish to retire. Kevin had understandably supported his decision at the moment. But now Evan was confused. If Kevin had died all along, who had been giving him commands all these years? In response, Evan went back to his room and decided to release Casey. She stated that she was working alone on this case and had asked Evan for aid. Casey then revealed her intention to travel to Malta the next morning at 10 a.m. to learn more about the reality. She begged Evan to stop killing on the commands of an unknown individual, wanting to break the cycle of violence. That night, the two slept in different rooms. But Evan's mind remained restless, and one question dogged him. How did he know of Monica's death but not Kevin's? Could someone have orchestrated Monica's deadly accident? This question required Evan to make a decision. The next morning, Evan finally decided to collaborate with Casey. However, he had one condition: if they were going to accomplish this, they had to do it his way. That meant Casey had to follow his instructions exactly as he gave them. One of Evan's key conditions was to leave behind all of their stuff to avoid leaving a trace. Casey agreed without hesitation, despite her first surprise. Unbeknownst to Evan, Leona, a member of the firm that assigned him, had discovered a secret GPS tracker implanted in his body, indicating that he had departed Rome. Leona quickly informed her boss that Evan, whom they referred to as the consultant, had deviated from his objective. She also confirmed that Evan was ignorant of the tracker's existence. When Leona revealed the information, Her superior directed her to post a cryptic advertisement in Malta's leading newspaper, with an encoded message for Evan. Meanwhile, Evan questioned how Casey had located him. Casey stated that the more she researched, the more he resembled the ghost she had been chasing. She was able to identify a trail without knowing his name, relying just on his features and behavioral habits to find him. Furthermore, Casey revealed that he was from the United States Tourism Division, which had built offices all around the world. One previous office in Malta, formerly busy but now derelict, stood out from the rest. Casey excused herself to use the restroom once she arrived at the port. While she was away, a nearby public phone rang, and Evan answered cautiously. The speaker on the other end quickly questioned why he had abandoned his position in Rome. Evan firmly stated that everything had changed after learning of Kevin's death. However, the voice remained vague, only directing him to return to Rome and accomplish his assignment. If he did not obey, the voice said, Evan would be the next target. The threat was more than just words. A crew of mercenaries commanded by a man named Butler had already received cryptic orders to arrest or kill Evan. Furthermore, the covert GPS tracker had sent his whereabouts to them. Not long after, Evan and Casey arrived at the building that had once been Kevin's office, a place full of memories and secrets. While Evan recognized the location, he was unaware that Butler and his heavily armed mercenaries had just arrived on the lower floor, ready to strike. Inside an ancient meeting room, Evan began to recall events from his life. While inspecting one of the worn-out chairs, he discovered a secret cassette tape beneath its seat. However, the distant sound of an elevator door opening drove him into high alert before he could investigate it further. Evan moved fast toward the elevator and took down one of Butler's men, sending him down the stairs. The unexpected strike elicited an immediate response from the mercenaries, causing Butler to order a complete assault on the upper floor. Evan swiftly led Casey to the rooftop to avoid their pursuers. They took advantage of the building's GPS dead zone, making it impossible to locate Evan's tracking signal. They jumped from the rooftop to an adjacent building, continuing their escape. They moved quickly across many buildings, making it increasingly difficult for their enemies to trace them. However, the mercenaries refused to give up, pursuing them through the streets while shooting, sparking panic among the civilians. Later, Evan took Casey to an old cathedral, where they discovered a room equipped with signal blocking equipment, thereby throwing their pursuers off track. This forced the mercenaries to retreat. Evan and Casey took advantage of this opportunity, fleeing through the cathedral's hidden escape. Evan then stole a car with a cassette player and drove to an MI6 safehouse in Malta. After verifying the safehouse was secure, Evan inserted the cassette he had obtained from Kevin's previous office. The recording revealed Kevin's interaction with a man named Sean. Sean accused Kevin of overstepping his bounds and compromising the CIA over the recording. Meanwhile, Casey utilized the safehouse's computer to learn more about Kevin's past. Shortly, she discovered a suspicious detail. Kevin had no known family, and the government had fully covered his burial expenses, including the disposal of all his assets. Evan eventually concluded that Sean was their lone lead, the key to uncovering the truths Kevin had buried. The next morning, Evan discovered he was running low on ammunition. With limited resources, he improvised, making makeshift bombs from items found in the safehouse. Shortly after, they went to a cafe and scanned the newspaper for coded messages hidden in the classified ads. Evan then discovered an encrypted note directing him to make contact. When he dialed the line, the voice on the other end offered a terrible ultimatum: return to Rome and accomplish his mission, or suffer dire repercussions. However, Evan was aware that the division he formerly served had disintegrated. He had seen the proof himself in Kevin's abandoned office. The caller then ominously cautioned that the woman accompanying him was not who she seemed and threatened to kill them both. Before Evan could react, the line went dead, and mercenaries attacked the cafe, firing a barrage of gunshots. Evan quickly commandeered one of their vehicles and sped away, dodging furious pursuit through the tight alleyways. He cleverly hid himself behind a passing truck before abruptly turning in the opposite direction. He was unaware that the mercenaries had installed a tracker in the vehicle, allowing them to determine his exact location. To finish his escape, Evan took a bold risk. When the automobile approached the brink of a cliff, he sprang out barely in time. The truck plummeted into the ravine and exploded upon impact. The fiery explosion diverted the mercenaries' attention, giving Evan a brief opportunity to flee unseen. However, the mercenaries quickly determined he was not in the car at the time of impact and began scouring the surrounding area in search of him. Not long after, Evan arrived at the MI6 safe house and urged Casey to leave immediately. However, Butler's men had already arrived and encircled the area. Despite their numerical disadvantage, Evan and Casey easily defeated them. As his soldiers fell, Butler seized a machine gun and opened fire, but Evan replied with an improvised bomb. The tremendous bomb killed numerous mercenaries, giving Evan and Casey ample time to escape through the back door. Unaware that the explosion had damaged the GPS tracker, they stole a car and fled. As they drove, Evan's suspicions increased. Something felt strange about the MI6 safe house, which lacked firearms and emergency escape plans. As his doubts grew, Casey ultimately made the decision to reveal the truth. She was not a former MI6 agent, as she had claimed. She was Evan's biological daughter. Her mother, Monica, named her Evander. Evan initially hesitated to believe it, but Casey showed him a birthmark that was identical to his and described Monica in excellent detail. She also handed him Monica's diary, which revealed that she attempted to contact Evan while pregnant. Unfortunately, bureaucracy had thwarted her efforts, and Evan, who was completely absorbed in his work, had no idea about the pregnancy. Evan's memories came back. Years later, he had finally decided to return to London, hoping to reunite with Monica and leave his life as a contract killer behind. When he returned, he was disappointed to learn that Monica had perished in a vehicle accident just hours before his homecoming. After hearing Casey's story, they began to build a bond. Trust gradually replaced suspicion. Evan sat in serious contemplation in the lonely location Casey had led him to, flipping through an ancient notebook packed with mysterious codes. The notes detailed secret advertisements and a list of his previous assassination targets. Casey, who was becoming increasingly interested in Evan, attempted to unravel the codes. Evan recognized her ability and began teaching her how to interpret the secret signals. As they examined the notebook, Casey noticed an unsettling pattern. Initially, Evan's targets included terrorists, warlords, and prominent criminals. Following the dissolution of his division, he began targeting scientists, CEOs, and politicians with no apparent links. Determined to find out the truth, they went deeper, digging through records at a library. Their research led them to Sean Davis, a military official in Malta who had previously been on Evan's hit list. Evan then recalled that Kevin had given the order for the assassination, but he passed away before completing the assignment. As a result, a theory formed. Kevin may have harbored a personal vendetta against Sean and persuaded Evan to do his bidding. Kevin left a strange note before his death. He rises again with shattered wings and a terrified expression. Evan quickly recognized the code as a reference to Antonio Griffin, the leader of the world's largest hedge fund organization, based in Malta. Further examination indicated that Antonio's group had gained greatly from the turbulent stock market changes that followed Evan's division's liquidation. They soon realized this was the case. Antonio most likely exploited Evan as a pawn to remove business competitors for financial gain. Evan and Casey went to his organization's headquarters, where they met Liana, one of his top lieutenants. With arrogance and confidence, Antonio freely claimed to be the genius behind Evan's assassination missions. He added that each contract Evan had completed had boosted his company to global domination. Antonio even offered a better wage to keep Evan working for him. However, Evan confronted him with pointed questions regarding the facts. Antonio skillfully avoided the conversation at one point, but Casey persisted in his questioning. Antonio, unwilling to say too much, preferred to keep his secrets. Evan, sensing the situation, feigned to accept Antonio's offer. Antonio provided them with vital locations and even secured a speedboat for their next expedition, proving his method to be effective. Guards brought Evan and Casey inside their destination. They were shocked to find Kevin, whom they had presumed dead, still alive. Years of treachery had overtaken Evan's emotions, prompting him to deliver a strong punch to Kevin. However, Kevin stayed cool, bringing them through the house and revealing a critical truth. Antonio, Kevin's old ally, had actually ordered Evan to assassinate Kevin. Kevin soon asked, calmly, whether Evan had genuinely sided with Antonio, to which Evan replied that negotiations were still underway. Kevin then told them that Antonio's men were on their way to eliminate everyone. Casey, who had been suspicious since the beginning, suspected a larger scheme was at work. She remembered her mother Monica's unexpected death, which coincided with Evan's plans to retire. Evan, split between fury and confusion, approached Kevin from behind, gripping his weapon tightly, ready to end it all. She began to suspect that Kevin had engineered Monica's death to keep Evan under his control. But before he could react, a hail of gunshots exploded outside. Antonio's mercenaries had arrived, and confusion followed. Kevin, anticipating the onslaught, took advantage of the chaos, bringing Evan and Casey to a basement for cover. Evan grabbed a basic gun, ready for war, while Casey analyzed the situation and incapacitated one of the attackers. During the fierce fighting, Butler, a brutal mercenary leader with a nasty reputation, utilized a tracking device to find another entrance into the basement. Evan reversed the situation by cutting the power supply, plunging the area into darkness, and then used guerrilla tactics to put pressure on the adversary. However, the mercenaries, armed with better equipment, surrounded the basement. The situation worsened when Butler came, holding an RPG and executing a deadly attack that resulted in a large explosion. The blast severely injured Kevin. Kevin begged Evan to listen to his explanation as he died, but Evan, fueled by hate, abandoned him and fled with Casey. They dashed to the kitchen, where they discovered a hidden stairway. Evan, urging his daughter to go first, elected to stay behind and repel their enemies. Despite her reservations, Casey eventually agreed and made her way to safety. Evan confronted the enemies in the short passageway, providing time for Casey to escape. However, their pursuit was unrelenting. To slow them down, Casey hurled a bomb, creating just enough of a distraction to allow her to reach the next location. Unfortunately, they quickly found themselves surrounded by a complete squad of foes. Father and daughter fought together, flawlessly blending their skills to defeat their enemies. Evan was shot during the fierce struggle. Despite his wounds, he defended Casey with all of his remaining power. When Butler launched a final push, Casey immediately grabbed a grenade from a fallen adversary and flung it, blocking Butler's assault. By the time the security personnel arrived, it was too late. Evan and Casey helped each other as they left the battlefield, fatigued and injured. A few days later, Evan went to Monica's cemetery. Standing there, he promised to protect Casey and leave his violent past behind. However, before he retired for good, he knew there was one last mission to complete, guaranteeing that Antonio would never pose a threat again. Evan invaded Antonio's home with calm purpose. In one final, secret mission, he eliminated Antonio, ensuring that he would never harm anyone else again. With the final threat removed, Evan and Casey could finally enjoy the calm life they had always desired. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.